Oh, you want to talk like specifically about like Tío Julio a little bit?
Sure.
Yeah.
So, in this story, he is a gay farmer slash werewolf, and he isn't exactly closeted, but he isn't exactly super open about his sexuality either. And there's a scene where she asks him if he's gay, and he says, "Yes, do you have a problem with it?" And she's like, "No, you're just the first gay person I've ever met." And that conversation actually happened in my own life. And I feel like there are a lot of kids that might be able to relate to that because who doesn't have, a gay Tío or Tía in their lives and, become curious about it and just like an innocent curiosity. And so that's kind of what I wanted to portray as just a tidbit about his character, but not the defining feature of who he is. Because he's so much deeper of a character and more complex a character. He's not a stereotype. He's not there as like comedic relief, even though there are comedic relief moments. He's not the butt of the joke. It's kind of, I tried to be respectful in my representation of who he is as a character because he is so beloved to me, especially as writing him. And he also struggles with mental health issues, just like his niece, which can be genetic, it can be hereditary, but it could also be from like family patterns and dysfunction and trauma. And that's kind of what I wanted to come across is that, we come in all shapes and sizes in the Latinx community, and you can't really say, oh, I've met one gay person, I know all gay people. Like, I know exactly how they're going to be like because we're all different. And I wanted him to be a unique character and show how hardworking he is, especially with the farmer aspect. He runs it all by himself. And then finally, here comes this, little teenager that he now has to take care of, and he's annoyed by it, but he loves her because she's family. And that's kind of how it was with my relationship with my uncle. My mom would sometimes drop me off at his house early in the morning when my nanny wouldn't show up, and he'd be like, "Really?" But he would do it because that's what you do for family. And um, I don't know where I was going with this, but basically, there is a lot of love between Selena and her uncle, just like there's a lot of love between me and my uncle. And I wanted that to be kind of represented in this book because, especially when you hear proponents against gay marriage or against gay people adopting, it's like this is proof that they can take care of children, that they are capable of love. And it sh we shouldn't like prejudge people just based off one criteria. You don't know their whole story just based on that. So,
Yeah. And I also like too how within the story, there is a point where, Tio Julio kind of reflects and opens up to Selena, and it like tells a story about a formative story of his and a couple formative stories, but uh, that kind of showed how he's kind of been on a trajectory of like being closed off from the world, and how, sometimes and often living in kind of like a closeted way, like sets people on a path that maybe at the time they think is like safety, but like upon looking back can kind of see that, oh, like maybe there is like something that I missed out on by not maybe finding my community where I do
yeah.
belong, or demanding my place in the community where I am. That's another kind of like alternative. Um, but and then also the kind of reflection, but also strength that he gets from Selena in like taking a step outside of that comfort zone that he's been in for so long. And
Yeah.
then also finding like that, sometimes when you do step out, there is goodness that can come in and like kind of trusting that, but doing so with the right supportive community is really important.
Yeah. And I hope that the people that read this book find their own community because sometimes, we don't have supportive families, but we have found families of friends and people that we can rely on and depend on. And so I hope that this book tells people to reach out, regardless if it's for mental health issues or for sexuality or identity crisis or whatever. Like, it's important to reach out for your community wherever that may be.
Yeah, and in a lot of ways, Tio Julio kind of represents in a lot of ways that community that is supportive of growth, of individual growth.
Yeah,
Um, like Selena has a few characters in her life who, like her mom, has a vision for her who she should be.
yeah,
Her dad also comes in with kind of like a vision for who she should be.
yeah,
Tio Julio tells her who she needs to be if she's gonna be around him, but within that takes the time to help her kind of explore herself and um, find who she is becoming in a lot of
yeah.
ways. I don't know.
And he kind of lets her be who she is. Like, he may not always agree with it, but he allows it to happen. And I feel like that's so important and critical for young people growing up to have that space be given to them to be like, okay, you're gonna mess up, but I'm gonna let you mess up and you're safe because I got you, type of thing.
Yeah, yeah, and it goes to show too how Selena shows like him a way forward too, but like it kind of like challenges him to kind of almost rethink how he's been living. And then with her, like she comes in, but she also like is able to identify and like call out like how his behavior is shaped even by his own anxiety and
Yeah,
how that is like cross generational. And like I think that moment um where like Tio Julio kind of explains why he wasn't like talking in the car when he originally picked her up
yeah,
because he was so anxious. He wanted to get to the house in one piece, basically.
yeah,
Um, as children, as like teenagers, I think to have that skill to reflect on the behavior of adults and um identify where maybe behaviors are coming from or rooting from is a skill that like all teenagers should learn, all
it
adults should
is.
learn.
It is.
Um, and it's not in a lot of books. And I think that's like a missing piece in a lot of like the curriculum of the past, you know? Like it was
Yeah,
always like I take everything at like face value and like that person's evil or that person's great. But no, like these are complex people and sometimes their behaviors are based off of sometimes maybe things out of their control, maybe some things within their control if they can properly treat things, or if they have a list of kind of guides that they follow too, like Tio's rules. Um, but yeah, it's interesting. I love it.
yeah. I find that with how adults are, I feel like we like to pretend that we don't have problems and like, oh, I'm perfect. I don't need to work on myself. And then when we interact with children, they're like a mirror to be like, oh no, you got your own shit that you got to work on. And I feel like what inspired that aspect of that book came from my teaching experience because I kind of thought that about myself, that I was all good. Like I had been to therapy. I was like, I'm perfect. I have no character flaws. And then finally, middle schoolers will be real honest with you and they'll point stuff out and they'll trigger you. And it kind of made me realize, oh man, I am a lot more flawed than I thought originally. But then it also made me think back to my own parents because we like to see them as perfect and not having flaws, or if they do make mistakes, like how dare they make a mistake? They're supposed to be perfect. We hold them to this high standard. And I think after going through the experience with teaching, it helped me reflect on, oh, my mom is like this because she has anxiety, or my uncle's like this because he has anxiety, or maybe this is why my dad drinks so much, And there's all these different aspects to life that become like unveiled that show you the hidden motives behind everything. And you no longer take things as face value, like, oh, he's not upset with me personally. He's not mad at me. He was just scared. And so I wanted that to be depicted in the book because I feel like that's so much more realistic than just to have good characters or bad characters, even though there is technically a villain in this book.